Biscuit, are you taking over the podcast today?
I don't have enough energy.
We got Biscuit just off camera here. Good morning, Biscuit.
So I like it. I look
We
like
need
hell.
another camera in here just for you. You don't look like the H word this morning, boo.
Jesse and his crazy antics. I saw Ryan this morning and I didn't do the running. And I told him why. And I was like, didn't I tell you why?
Mm-mm.
Oh, no. Because we
told Rob, I think.
Yeah.
Ron?
Yeah, Ron. We were...
Y'all call him Ron?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
He's a lot of times he's not cool enough to be a Rob. When he's acting cool, we call him Rob.
When he's not,
he's Ron.
Oh, my gosh.
And hold on.
Well, that's good to know.
Is it Lee or Leah?
it's Lee.
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 It's kind of like Pam or Pamn. That's what I was thinking.
Nobody's laughing at
I
you.
know, but that's what I was... Because I saw the way she spelled it. I expected it to be spelled L-E-E.
Like phonetically, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw
Okay.
it. He loves doing that to anybody named Pam.
Pam or Pamna?
He took it. What is that?
And
That's all
it's
his
kinda like
stepbrothers.
Lee or Leah. You could really get somebody with that.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. I'm just having a moment. Welcome back to the 3-7 podcast, everyone.
I like how you didn't give them any heads up we were starting. You were just like,
Dude.
go and clap and go.
Well, I mean, we can start whenever you guys want, but you guys go to CrossFit at 5:15 every morning?
We alternate because someone has to stay home with the boys. So I'm usually Monday,
I'm Tuesday, Wednesday.
I'm Friday, and then we both go on Saturday.
5:15.
5:15.
Boo, you would be useless.
I'm going to tell you, the only time I ever get up at 5:15 is if I'm going deer hunting. I think that's the only time I would ever get up that early.
It's accurate.
That's about
Yeah.
the only time it's worth it.
But you guys said it's the only time that you have to, if you don't get it in at 5:15, you're just not going to get your workout in, right?
That's right.
Okay. Well, I commend you for that. That's dedication.
Mm-hmm.
I told Lee when we first started CrossFit that I would never work out in the morning. I told her that when we first started.
Yeah, I was always
And-
the 5:15er. And then I was getting frustrated when I would come home from work and he was always heading out to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it would really be great if you could go in the morning. And he was like, never. No way. And now we like argue. Like on Tuesday nights, I'm like, are you going to go? Are you sure you're going to go? Are you? Because like if one of us sleeps in and the other wakes up, we're like, what are you doing? You took my
wasted
day.
it.
You
Oh
took my day.
Gosh.
So it's like you have the pressure of like, even this morning I was like, well, I better go. Like, you got to go on your day.
How many kids do you guys have?
We have 2 boys.
Okay. How old are they?
They are 7 and 9.
Oh, wow. Handful then.
So they're 1st and 3rd grade. Coach Krista is their PE coach at
Yep.
school.
No way.
Oh, that's
Absolutely.
fantastic.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
I wonder if she beats the kids.
She's my
like she
coach,
does
too.
us. Yeah.
Coach Chris is my coach,
They
too.
play games. Like,
So she's much
She coached
nicer.
us this
I
morning.
think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about this bread right here.
I baked that this morning. So I made that for you guys. I'm not a baker. I don't cook. Ryan's our cook.
Really?
Yeah, Ryan's the cook. I do other things, but that's I do some things, but that's his thing. So my girlfriend Jessie taught me how to make that back in like 2019. So my boys call it Jessie bread,
Okay.
and we call it Jessie bread, and we get the wheat from a family down in like Woodstock area. So I have like a mill, and we grind it, and I've been kind of tweaking the recipe. Like we'll text each other like, what to add or what works. So
I am a bread connoisseur.
I know.
Bread and coffee.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I submit to you this loaf of Jessie bread.
I really
For your
appreciate it, man.
evaluation.
You have no idea how much that means to me.
Oh, he's pumped.
Okay, good.
Yeah. You know, man, everybody has demonized bread these days. You
Because
know?
it's so processed.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you. This whole plant-based diet is
Oh,
a
Lord.
fad. It's a fad. A plant-based diet is an inferior diet.
we have
People
things
have
to talk
demonized bread, demonized meat. A ribeye steak has everything your body needs in a ribeye steak. Do you guys eat plant-based diet?
We just went
Mostly
to
just
Longhorn for
Bojangles.
lunch today.
Okay.
Do not.
Mostly Bojangles.
about. Triggered. I'm triggered. I quit.
We're just part of the line blocking traffic. Get it to the Bojangles.
Well, I just had to throw that. I just had to throw that out there. Plant-based diet is an inferior diet.
Says the guy that last night walks into the house and Chef Leslie has made plant-based tacos and you're stuffing your face telling her how good it was.
You always have to be nice to the chef. If you're not nice to the chef, if you go in and tell the
Why'd you
plant-based
eat it?
chef,
It's not smart to not be nice to the chef.
yes, you'll wind up with a bellyache because something's going to get in your food that you don't.
You could have just ate one taco. You ate like 4.
Well, I was hungry. I was ready for chow, and that was what was for dinner.
Why don't you just let people eat what they want to eat and just keep your stuff to yourself?
Because I want people to maximize their potential. And I'm telling you, if you want to maximize your potential, you should eat ribeye steak. Now, I want to move on to the next question I have for you guys. We have 2 dentists in the studio today, Leigh and Ryan. You guys are the first dentists that we've ever had on the show.
Probably the last, but
She's
thank
like,
you.
There we go.
Well,
why do you say that?
I want to ask you guys. This is really weird. I never brush my teeth, and I don't get cavities. What is happening?
He also doesn't get kisses.
How is it possible to not brush your teeth and not get cavities?
Like ever?
No, as an adult, I don't think I've ever had a cavity.
Our sex life was already going downhill with the beard. And then he quit brushing his teeth.
Baby, I've never brushed my teeth. Now, I used to think it was because I did Copenhagen. And my theory was that something in Copenhagen
Was preventing.
protected my teeth. But then I quit dipping Copenhagen, and I'm still not getting cavities. I'm still not brushing my teeth. So, can you guys explain that to me? Because I know dentists are all about brushing teeth and flossing and stuff.
Well,
How do you know you don't have cavities?
It's a good question.
My teeth don't hurt. If you get a cavity, don't your teeth hurt?
Not unless it's bad.
The foul smell might have something to do with it.
diet and nutrition does play a big role.
That's a big one.
It's a big one.
Do some people have harder teeth than others?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
There's definitely a genetic component. Diet, nutrition.
Environmental.
Yep.
So some people are more prone to getting cavities.
Absolutely.
That's how Chili is. Chili has a soft teeth.
A softie.
Yeah.
He's got the soft teeth.
That boy will not miss a toothbrushing. I mean, he won't miss it. And he wears this. He also puts this thing in his. He's gonna hate it though. I'm telling everybody this.
He's like, I'm not even there to defend
He
myself.
has this thing, this clear, like retainer looking thing that he puts on his teeth at night.
Yeah.
And he won't tell us what it's for. Have you guys ever seen one of those?
Yeah.
Well, it's either for him grinding at night, or if he's had any kind of braces or anything like that, it's a clear retainer to hold his teeth in position.
No good dirt. You didn't get any dirt.
Unless he's like bleaching his teeth.
Ooh, he could be bleaching.
Oh, he
Whitening.
could be. Yeah, he's all about some nice teeth. Was dentist school hard?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the hardest part? I mean, I want each of you give me the most difficult part of dentist school for you personally.
So I grew up here and I went to a small high school, so I always did really well in school and didn't have to work super hard. And I went to Georgia. Dental school was where you got humbled like really fast. You're around a lot of really, really intelligent people, so you have to work harder than I ever had to work before to kind of stay in the pack. And it's just all new skills.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of hand skills. And so I was always really great at test taking and kind of being able, like in a classroom setting, like sitting down with my syllabus and highlighting and taking notes. I was always really great at that. But like the hand skills of actually working with patients was the most challenging thing for me.
Have you ever screwed up when you're working on somebody and like
Don't ask her that.
Never screwed up.
like busted their tooth up or something?
I mean, we had some really like some wild stories. Like while we were in school, we'd have
It could be a nightmare.
we'd have some things, but I mean, I'm certainly not perfect. I know I've made mistakes, but nothing like really exciting,
Okay.
which is
That's good.
It's good.
That's good.
We don't want to have any real
I'm
exciting
trying to
stories.
determine when I get cavities which one of you guys I want to come to work on my teeth.
She works on baby
I'm a
teeth.
pediatric specialist, so I only work on little ones.
What the heck? Really?
Right, yes.
Why do you even work on little bitty teeth? They're all going to fall out anyways.
Well, not like immediately.
Okay.
Little bitty
need 'em.
teeth can get toothaches.
They got to be able to eat too.
Well, that's true.
Chad's teeth, his mom, love you, Jenny. His mom fed him marshmallows every night at bed, and all his baby teeth rotted out before they fell out.
Yep.
And some kids, it doesn't bother them. Sometimes they get little toothaches.
I had some terrible toothaches when I was a kid. Marshmallows every night before bed, not good for your children. Ryan, what was the hardest part for you? We got hands-on skills right here. What about you?
Mine's like the opposite. I was always good with the hand skill stuff, and that just came naturally to me.
He's the artist.
And some of the classes were just super hard. Like the amount of material, not necessarily like it was overwhelming and you couldn't understand it, but just the amount that you had to memorize and be able to regurgitate and understand. Like it was just the amount.
Okay.
Yep. And then in dental school, you do the lab courses too, along with the didactic courses, and so you're at school from like 8 to 5 most days. And so med school is a little different because they go from like 8 to 12, and then everybody goes home and they study for the rest of the day. So we go to 8 to 5, and then we have to study after that. So it's like learning how to prioritize my time.
And for those of us
key.
who weren't stellar with the hand skills, you stay up in the lab till 7, 8, redoing things and practicing.
While the rest of us are studying.
Yeah.
Dang it, man. How long was school?
Dental school was 4 years, and then my pediatric residency was 2 more.
Good Lord.
Okay.
That's on top of like your undergrad, right?
Right.
Yes.
Good
So I was
gracious.
6 years post undergrad.
We got a lot of school.
Okay, I don't know about the like total time. Like from the time
You can't count.
6 years. What is undergrad? I don't
So
know what
that's
that is.
my
Yes, you
4 years at Georgia. So 10 years after I graduated from high school.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
10 years
10,
of
yeah.
school.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he did 9.
Yeah.
A decade.
A decade.
Oh my gosh, man!
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's dedication right there. How did you make money while you went through 10 years of school? How did you survive?
Student loan debt.
Really? That pays like for your living expenses and stuff, or
It does when you're in dental school. It does, yeah.
wow. All right, one last dentist question.
Yeah.
I was about to speed you along.
What's the worst set of teeth you've ever seen? Tell me about it. There's got to be one person that like opened their mouth and
there's
it's
one
like,
that stands out to me. Is
you don't have
he
to
was-
mention names.
I'm not. He was a patient of mine in dental school, and he had dipped his entire life. He said he was probably 67 or something when I saw him, and he said he had dipped his entire life since he was like 3, and I believed him. And he never brushed, and he had food all in his mouth, and his teeth were breaking down. I just remember there was just tons of food in his mouth when I looked in.
Did he have a beard? No, for real, did he?
That was real specific.
And there was, and then there's the smell to it, and it's just.
Or his gums like his gums were
Yeah.
like eroded and stuff?
Yeah, so his he had severe recession on the lower and areas of like ulcers where he would put the Copenhagen or whatever he dipped,
Yeah.
and we actually did a biopsy on it, and somehow it came back and it was not cancerous. Somehow, I don't know how the heck it was not cancerous, but
It looked nasty.
it looked nasty. Yeah.
Did you get him fixed up?
No, I don't know what happened with him. I was like later on in my
Our patients in dental school kind of roll back to
Yeah.
when we
so
graduated.
he rolled back to somebody else behind me.
He had to get rolled through multiple dentists. Well, he had a messed up mouth, didn't
yeah.
he?
Bless it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I could only imagine. What about you? Leigh?
I mean, I work with kids. We do dental surgeries. So we go to some of the local hospitals and we'll do cases under anesthesia. So I've had kids just for different reasons. Like I said, some could be genetics, some are dietary, but I've had kids as young as 18 months, 2 years old, where we're having to go in and take out teeth that are abscessed or infected.
Wow.
So
That's terrible.
those are, yeah. I mean, I feel like we are able to help them because there's not there's not many other options.
Yeah.
So we can do it where they can be safe and they're comfortable and they don't go through anything traumatic. But, taking out teeth on little ones as small as 18 months, 2 years old. And I've done some mission trips, like, internationally, and people always ask, like, as if I've saw things that might be really wild, like in Romania or Guatemala. But, I mean, really, you'll see same things here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not any worse anywhere else, so.
Interesting, man.
So no one's going to listen past this part of the podcast. They're
No.
going to be like,
I
I'm
could
talking about teeth. They're like,
no, I could do. I'm really interested. I mean, I could do a whole dang podcast on dentist stories. I mean, there's so many questions that I have about what it's like to be a dentist. I mean, it's a really unique. I mean, you're talking about a decade of learning to perform this skill. I mean, I think it's a pretty cool career path. All right, the core of our conversation is going to be today around you guys' story, and I think specifically addiction and recovery and how you guys worked through that process as a married couple, and you were able to keep your marriage and all that's entailed in that. The reason I feel like this is a good conversation for us to sit down and have, and for the people to listen to, is because I don't know if I personally know a single individual out there who has not been affected in some way, shape, or form by addiction. It might not have been them personally having to go through that, but someone in their immediate family has usually is currently struggling with addiction or is in somewhere in the process of recovery. And it's still kind of a taboo thing that I think a lot of people are still somewhat, I don't know if you want to say ashamed to talk about it or what it may be, but it's like we just ran a course last weekend, the Proving Grounds, and I'm open about Brooke and I's story, and at least I'm open about my side of it. And I mention it to people that I'm training with, and then I have people come up to me afterwards, and they're like, "Hey, my wife's actually an addict right now, or my son is an addict, and I don't know how to deal with it." And they would have never mentioned that, and it's probably the biggest struggle they're going through in their life. And so I think it's just a very prevalent thing, and it's a lot of things that should be said about it to help people that are struggling with this in their life.
It needs to be normalized.
Yeah.
It needs to be like something that we just keep a constant conversation about. I think, like, it's an illness.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
But before we dig into y'all's story, I want to let y'all know this podcast is brought to you by Nuff Said Running, because Leigh just finished a 10K, right?
that's right.
And you said that you enjoyed watching the Nuff Said Running video series.
I did.
Did you learn anything that helped you?
I did. I learned. I mean, every video had something, a different tidbit, something to learn, something that was helpful. I've run in the past. I told Brooke I did a couple half marathons with a group. We ran and we trained and ran back, which half marathon to you guys, but to us it was like big mileage, 13.
It is big mileage.
So we did that in 2018 and 2019. That 2019 half, I went down with like a knee injury and just kind of let running fall to the wayside. And so this was kind of my first race back since I stopped running a couple years ago. So just really starting out with the mindset piece was huge, because I can get in my head with running and that I'm not a runner.
Yeah.
So the mindset piece, I laugh even when I was running the 10. I'm like, you're holding an egg.
Yeah.
Like, I tend to get really tense. So just a lot of the mechanics and just some of the training philosophies with track training. And even our race day execution, which I don't use race as a verb. I don't like races. I just like, I go to the race.
I'm with you.
But even like planning our race day execution, like we were staying at a hotel and my friend was like, what time should we get there? I'm like, 30 minutes before the race.
Yeah.
That's what Chad said. We don't need to be down there for 2 hours pacing around, nervously waiting for it to start.
So awesome, man.
So it was really great.
I am so glad that helped you. That's the reason we created that course, is because running is so important to me in my life for so many different reasons. And it does seem, I remember when I first started running, it seems overwhelming when you first get started. So that's the reason we created it, is for stories like that.
Right.
Like that is that makes me so happy that it helped you. Thank you for buying the course and for paying attention to it.
Well worth it. It was super easy to watch the clips.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like a hot, hilly 10K. So when I finished, we were super proud of ourselves, and it just got us like back in that mode, because now we'll still get together. Like when he's at the gym, we'll get together on Tuesdays in the morning, and we can just go run, and it's how we can talk and catch up outside, and we're running, and it's just something that's been really great to get back into the routine. So
yeah, that is so cool. And you talked about showing up to the race, even if you're not competitive. When you show up to the race, here's my advice to you: always run as if you were in first place, right? So no matter where you are during the race, run as if you were in first place, and second place is right on your heels. Just imagine that in your mind, and you are going to maximize what you can accomplish that day.
I had a time in my head.
Okay.
So I was racing myself pretty much. Like my girlfriend, like she had her time, so she kind of took off there towards the end. She's more of a runner, but I definitely had my time. So I was about 2 minutes ahead of my time. So I was pumped about. It was one of those, like, my Strava's like telling me my time, like coming into mile 6, and you've got like the point 2. I'm like, okay, I better pick it up.
Man, I love that.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, all right. If you guys want to check out Nuff Said Running, just go to nuffsaidrunning.com. You can get this 10-part video series for less than the cost of a pair of running shoes. And hopefully it helps you like it helped Leigh. Thank you. Nuff Said Running. Biscuit, where do you want to start this conversation?
I would love to start with, I want to hear your whole life story, but I don't think we have time. Like, that's where I wanted to start, but he talked too much. So now I think it would be good to start, like, what season of life were you guys in, like, right before all this started? Like, set the stage for...
Like, before I went to treatment?
No, I want to know, if you don't mind, like, right before you started using, where were you at? Where were you guys at? Like, what was life like?
That's going to take us way back.
Yeah. I mean, that's high school for me. Like,
oh, well, yeah, I want to
drinking
hear it.
and
Yeah.
partying.
Can you, like, synopsis some of it?
Yeah.
Like, no rush.
Yeah. I have 3 brothers. I have 2 older brothers and 1 younger brother. And I idolized one of my older brothers, who is number 2 in the family. I'll leave their names out of it. But he was kind of the partier in high school. And I saw that he had the fame and had friends and girls and all the things that I wanted, really, is what it was. And so I kind of idolized him, and knowing older kids, like his friends, like we could get alcohol easily. And so we always had alcohol, and we, marijuana, all that kind of stuff. In high school you can get just about anything you want, but that was mostly what I stuck to in high school was alcohol. So alcohol was my first drug of choice, and that's the one that I used throughout, no matter what. Mm-hmm. And then you go to college, and it's just more of the same, and then graduate college, and then kind of change a little bit as far as what I like. I moved into wine and that sort of stuff, but I was still part of the party scene. And then even in dental school, like, we would study so hard, and then we would go out real hard also, like on Fridays and Saturdays.
At that point, were you like a daily drinking alcoholic, like get the shakes, or you were just I
was more of so I would drink daily, but I would have like a glass of wine or something like that. And that kind of started when in my mid-20s.
Okay.
We went to Europe, and I thought I was sophisticated, and I started drinking wine, And that was something that I found I could drink daily and not get like real hungover and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, because you did this throughout dental school, right?
Yes.
And we were just talking about how difficult that is.
Now, I say not drinking much, but I would drink a bottle of wine at night.
Oh, okay. Heard.
It's relative.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, alcohol is so freaking sneaky, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we've had seasons in our life where I like to drink craft beer,
We both
right?
do.
And I've had seasons in my life, in the past years where it's like I would drink one beer every single evening. And then over the course of a few months, I would be drinking 3 beers every single evening.
Yeah.
To 4 beers. And it's like, whoa, what the heck is, like, I got to stop doing this.
Yeah,
Like,
it's sneaky.
Gosh, it's sneaky, man.
Yeah.
Because if you one bottle of wine in the evening, well, you can get up the next morning and do your thing just fine, right?
Right.
Heck, you're
You're
passing
a
dental
little
school.
foggy at first, when you wake up, and then you're good.
Yeah.
And then when I found narcotics, I could pop a narcotic in the morning, and I was real good then.
Mm-hmm.
Or I thought it was,
And when did that start?
That started, so I had a knee surgery in dental school. I tore my ACL, and then I had a knee surgery, did an ACL replacement, and they wrote me, hydrocodone afterwards, appropriately so. And, man, from then on, it was like, bam. Like, that was my new drug of choice, was narcotics. Hydrocodone, oxycodone, those sorts of things. And so that continued after dental school, and I knew I had a problem. Like, I couldn't just take one, and I couldn't just drink one glass of alcohol. Like, I just couldn't do just one. Something changed in me when I would drink one, and then the next one was just coming. It was coming. And so the combination of alcohol and narcotics, like narcotics during the day, alcohol at night, that time got shorter and shorter between the two, and then we moved to Rome and started working and living here.
So when did you guys get married? At what point did you get married?
So we met in dental school. We started dating. I was a senior. You were a junior.
Yes.
We went on a mission trip to Trinidad and Tobago. Got to know each other. Started dating later that fall. So we got engaged. Let's see. I ended up matching to do my residency, stay in Augusta. So we got engaged fall of 2009. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got married in 2010 at Christmas, and we graduated 6 months later. So we'd been married like 7 months or so when we moved back to Rome.
When was the surgery in relation to when you guys got married?
It was in 2008.
Surgery was right when we started dating.
So you were completely addicted to narcotics by the time you guys were dating?
Mm-hmm.
Did you know?
Nope.
Okay.
I did not.
Y'all's story is just like ours. So much like our story.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
But did you ever think that something was maybe a little off? Like, did you ever have the intuition?
So he had his knee surgery. I went up to visit him after his knee surgery, and that was the first time I went to his parents' house. He's from Northwest Georgia also. So it was relatively early when you had your surgery. So we, like, our class, my friends, we also drank in dental school. So
Her class was known as a party class.
shout out class of 2009.
Yes. And yes.
Our class, yeah. So I didn't see any major red flags with Ryan particularly. Now, if you kind of look over the course of our dating, there were definitely things that would happen. There would be like these moments where something was not right. Sometimes I'd address it. Sometimes I would talk myself out of like, well, somebody else was worse, or time would go by and you'd start to, in your mind, kind of be like, well, he's been doing fine. That was just something weird. But in hindsight, I mean, there were definitely things that would happen.
Yeah.
That, or we'd even talk about things, and he would be like, yeah, I'm gonna stop. Like, a common thing was he'd go a month without drinking. So we'd have something that would happen.
Which is like worse. It makes it worse.
But like,
If I go a month without drinking, I'm convincing myself that I'm not an alcoholic.
which he
okay.
could do
It
it.
made it worse for me.
He could do it, but he's using narcotics, so I don't know about it. So it would almost be kind of like a show to get me to simmer down that there wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
And you never saw the prescriptions. You never saw the.
So there was, I mean,
Some later on.
later on, yeah, there were a few instances where things,
Okay, keep going.
yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, now I know where you guys are and where when you guys got married. So you guys made the decision to move back to Rome,
We did.
and I think that's where you left off, right?
Yeah, so we moved back to Rome. We both started practicing. She was commuting to Atlanta for a little bit, and we ended up she getting pregnant, and we had our first son September of 2012. And so we ended up buying a house and moving and all that kind of stuff. And it looked like things were going well. Like, we both had a job. She ended up coming back to Rome, and she worked in the office that she works in now here in Rome. And so we just had, some good trajectory is what it looked like. And in the meantime, I am still like doing whatever I can do to get narcotics. So one way is I could get them from my brother, one of my brothers. And so he would come down and he would play golf with me and stuff like that. We'd play golf, but it was a drug deal on top of that. And then I would go see a primary physician, which I would tell her I had some aches and pains, and narcotics worked well for me, and so that's what she would write. And with me, I think with me being a dentist, like I had some credibility, and I certainly abused that credibility. I ended up doing an amends to her. She was very kind.
Did she know? Or when you.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
We gotta come back to that.
Yeah, because I don't know what that is. But yeah,
One of the 12 steps.
Okay.
112 steps. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it just kept escalating, and even at my work, I could get things through my work.
Mm-hmm.
I could order meds through the office.
I'd be dead.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Got real close.
Got real close. And so it kept getting worse. Like, and even the more I wanted it to stop, there was nothing that I could do. And I tried like guilt, like if you love your children, you can't keep doing this. Like I tried like, do you really love your wife and kids if you're doing this? I tried working out, which actually helped for a little bit. Or I thought it helped, because I wasn't using as hard during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would always skyrocket. From there, I would have these little glimpses, and then bam, it'd be off to the races again. And when I look back on it, like especially towards the end of my using, like it was like I was just torturing myself, is what I was doing, because I would use real hard, and then I would stop, and I'd have withdrawals, like miserable withdrawals. Those are the worst. I mean, you've never wanted to like not exist more than like coming off of something like that. And you just had to put up with this normal life stuff that didn't seem worth doing, like talking to people, like going to work, eating.
Sober.
I ended up losing a bunch of weight. What else?
What's the time frame here? Like, we're talking.
This is years, so it's
The first kid was born in 2012.
Uh-huh.
You started narcotics in
2008.
2008.
Uh-huh.
You guys got married in 2010. Where are we kind of roughly now in the story?
So at this point, we've probably had our second child. Yeah. And so we have our second child, and I have been working for a while. Like I said, I'm ordering drugs through the office, narcotics, and like things are starting to spiral out of control a little bit.
What does that mean?
So people are starting to notice some things, and like the person I worked with noticed some stuff. Some other friends noticed some stuff.
Didn't you pass out at a bathroom one time?
I did.
Hey, I did that too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Look at us.
We got the same disease.
Look at us. Look at us.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know, just and the like lying, anything to cover up what I was doing was necessary.
I was stealing from other people.
Yeah. So when I walked back to the bathroom here to use the restroom, I was like, well, normally if I was still using, I would have been shuffling through the cabinets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Always.
Yep.
Always.
Always. Because they don't need them.
No.
And I do.
I've staged break-ins to
Have
take
you? Oh,
people's
that's good.
medication.
Yeah.
Like I have staged a burglary so that way it wouldn't fall back on me. Like,
Yeah.
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 We won't go there.
Well, you know, all of this is, as I listen to it, it's just a testament to the power of addiction, the power of these drugs. I've said it time and time again. These drugs are the most powerful force on earth. They're stronger than a mother's love. They're stronger than sex. They're stronger than anything else.
Hunger.
Yeah, hunger, anything else. That it's mind-boggling to me. Like, and I have no idea how that feels inside of you, because there's almost like, is it like there's two parts of you?
Oh yeah.
So there's like, because you made mention that like there was a part of you that hated it and you knew you were torturing yourself.
Yeah. It's a conflict. It's an internal conflict all the time. And it's the ups and downs are just, I mean, it's a roller coaster of, you know, I'm going to be good. I'm going to do it this time. How did I use again?
How many times
And how do you make it through the day without using?
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing I couldn't get until I went to treatment.
How many times did you like make a plan the night before? I'm only going to take a pill at 10:30, at 2, and at 5. And I'm only bringing that amount with me to work, and that's it.
Absolutely.
And like I'm talking about hundreds of days for me.
Oh yeah.
That I'm like, I'm going to do this.
Right.
No.
Absolutely. And you could never do it.
No.
You'd end up stealing from somebody or going back home to get them. You'd find a way.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I would go out at night a lot of times and go up to the office and get things and come back. And
One time we were having our son's first birthday and he went to pick up the Chick-fil-A chicken nuggets and he was really late coming back with them. And when he came, I was like, what happened? And he was like, oh yeah, they just didn't have them ready. I was like, Chick-fil-A did not have the nuggets ready? And he's like, no. I'm like, did they give you like a free sweet tea? Did they give you something? He's like, no, I just had to sit there for like 45 minutes waiting. I should have known he was lying then. I should have known he was lying when he said Chick-fil-A did not have his nuggets ready and did not give him any kind of sweet tea. I should have known you were not waiting at Chick-fil-A. You picked these nuggets up an hour ago and we're off.
Can I just
Doing your
say
thing.
how much I love the energy that you guys bring to this conversation? Like, I don't know you well. I'm not sensing much shame from you in this. Like, I'm sensing confidence and like you're willing to put yourself out there and like, and the way you just talked about that. I mean, that's a big deal. But like, you're just
We talked like before we even did this podcast because I joked with when Brooke came up to me at the gym and was like, hey, how about instead of going to dinner or lunch, like let's just do a podcast. I was like, he's gonna hate this. And when I told him, he's like, absolutely, I hate this, which is why I know this is something I should do, because he said like it's almost like why would we come on a podcast to tell our story? Like we talked about that before we came, and like our mission is to give people hope.
that's exactly it.
Like we both have people in our immediate family that have either not recovered yet or never did. So we know the reality of what some people probably their experience with addiction is. There's not a happy ending, or they're still praying for that every day. So we come on, and we certainly know that we're not going to be sharing like a how-to, we just have our story and where we are right now and hope it can give people hope. So we've worked through it. It's been, what?
6 years.
6 years?
6.5, yeah.
6.5.
Yeah.
Don't let me derail though. I probably just derailed.
Yeah,
But-
no.
Sorry.
What
No, that was me.
and what I, the other thing that is just so like over the top of my head is like you're fighting this internal conflict for years, and it's like I want to say, well, man, how in the world do you carry that burden around with you for that long? But I guess ultimately the burden will eventually crush everyone, right?
It'll crush you. And it was about to crush me, like towards the end.
Talk about it.
Talk about it.
I'm excited.
Well, it's that burden. That's a good word for it, because you have to use to handle that burden. Like that's one way I handled it, was using. But then the more you use, the bigger the burden gets, and so it's just this time bomb. Like I felt like when I went to treatment, I described myself as like this time bomb that was there was no way of letting any of the pressure out. Like I'm a bomb, and there's no way of letting any of that pressure out. I have to just keep using drugs, but all what happens is that pressure just keeps building and building. So when what you need are the correct ventilation in this thing to let some of the pressure out, and that is being with community. It's having a relationship with a higher power, a relationship with yourself, with others, and that's controlling that time bomb, or just the pressure of life, is really what that is. The burden now, the burden that I was carrying then was much heavier, because it was it had lies and deception, and this confusing thought that I wanted to be a good person, and yet I could not. And there was nothing that I was doing that could change that. Because I tried everything. Like I tried everything. Like in the big book, Big Book's Alcoholics Anonymous. It talks about like changing things. So I'm only going to drink beer today, or I'm only going to take the pills at 12 and at 2 and at 4, and I'm only going to bring 3 of them.
Yeah.
That'll do. That's the solution. That's not the solution. And God, that burden is just. Whew, it's. I certainly have some feelings when I think about it, because there was some when I ended up going to treatment and finally like getting honest about things. Some of that went away like right then, like right when I was confessing what was going on to the people around me, and it was really scary. It was terrifying. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew that I felt some relief at that moment, that burden was not going to crush me that day.
You keep referencing like towards the end, things got really bad. Like I kind of selfishly want to hear like what that looked like for you guys and your family and your work, and like, are you willing to share that?
Yeah. So I'll start kind of in the summer before I went to treatment in November. So that summer I was really using drugs hard from the office, and I would use real hard one week and I would pay the price the next week through withdrawals and everything else, and swear off drugs, and then do it the same. And I realized that I was going down. Like there was going to be there was going to be an overdose.
Drugs were changing
at some
too.
point.
Like
drugs were getting stronger, and there was going to be an overdose at some point.
yeah, like weird IV drug using. was escalating.
Yeah. And so I ended up getting in touch with a recovery group that is set up through the Georgia Dental Association and talking to the lead counselor of this group. And it's actually a group that I'm still a part of today. And I ended up going down and going to some meetings and that sort of stuff, but I still wasn't telling the truth. Like, I wanted to just go and, like, have this neat little package story, you know?
Yep.
And then just get better and be done with it. And let's go back to...
Like, I had this surgery,
way-
they gave me these pills, I've had a hard time, let me go to a couple meetings.
I'll get over
We'll tie a
this.
bow on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No bad, no. It'll be clean. We can go back to living our lives.
You're still using?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Going to the meetings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then, you know, again, it's ups and downs. Like, I would go through a week without using, and then I would celebrate that I didn't use on a Friday. I remember distinctly doing that, like saying, "Look, man, I haven't used in like 2 weeks. I'm gonna have something right now." And it was that's just the insanity of it.
Yeah.
That's the insanity.
That's the disease of. That's what in my mind. That's what categorizes it as a disease.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. It's
Yeah.
insane.
I would call that's this. I would say instead of insanity, it's the sickness. Like that. That is. You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
like freaking. Yeah. Totally.
Yes.
That summer, Lee, did you start to realize what was happening?
Yeah. That's my question.
Right.
Yeah.
So that summer, no. So the time in our marriage where I was kind of most keenly aware that something was going on was right around the time we were about to have our second son. So about a year before he went to treatment. I was at the gym, like 38 weeks pregnant, doing kettlebell swings.
You go, woman. You're so cool.
And
She's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
my back was hurting. Like when I came home, like I was like laying down, and my dear sweet husband was like, "You should call your doctor, and it's like, you should call your doctor if your back's hurting, like, you know, you should check in." And I'm like, no. Anyway, he like calls my OB for me and tells him what I did, and you know, you can't like call in narcotics, so he like drives up to the hospital to like meet my OB to like get this prescription, takes it to get filled for me. And at first I'm like, he's really going above and beyond to help me. And I don't typically take medicine like in general, or sort of the opposite in that way. I think I took like one and then didn't touch it, and then at some point I looked and I was like, I could tell that they were missing. And I looked and the quantity had been like rubbed where you couldn't see the quantity of pills on the pill bottle.
I did that too.
Oh yeah.
So I go to him and I'm like looking at him and there's not many in there. And I'm like, I took like one. And I'm pretty sure there's like 30. And so I confronted him about it. I'm pretty sure he lied.
I'm sure I did.
Yeah. So that was one of those things where I was like, that seems off. And then I remember when I went into labor at like 2 a.m, because that's like what happens. I couldn't get him up. Like I'm trying to wake him up and he's like nonsensical. I'm like, I'm having contractions. He's like, are they 2 minutes apart? I'm like, no. He's like, well then wake me up when they're 2 minutes apart. It goes back to bed. So I had to like wrestle this man out of the bed. And when we were at the hospital, like it's one of the sadder stories because it was the birth of our second baby and he was just kind of out of it. Like people would come in the room and he'd call him the wrong name. Like he'd be like, "Hey John." I'm like, that's not John. And like he's sleeping on the cot and I'm like, I'm the one over here like in labor and he's just worn out. So that was like one of those times where I think we had a talk and I was like, what is going on? So he was, he gives you like that just half truth, just enough to be like, yeah, I've been taking a few pain pills and his father's a physician. I'm like, you need to go talk to your dad. Like that was my like line in the sand. Like you've got to talk to somebody. You need to go talk to your dad. So this was like that year before. So he calls his dad. You called your dad? No. You told me you called your dad.
I thought we were up there. I thought we went up there.
I don't know. There was some point where he's like, I'm going to go talk to him. Because you don't know. Am I yelling?
Mm-mm.
No. You don't know who to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't know what the like what the next move was. And so I think we were like, you know, talk to somebody. And he's like, okay, I'll talk to somebody. I'll talk to my dad. I'll tell him what's going on. And I think his dad was like, yeah, you should stop doing that.
But, you know,
No,
I didn't tell him the truth.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I told him I was struggling. Yeah, I didn't tell him that. I told him I think I had a hard time getting off pills, you know.
You know, and it's like, well, you think you can beat it? Just stop. And he's like, yeah, I can. It's like, okay. And he tells me, I'll talk to him. I'm like, okay. Like, I just felt like I needed we needed to do something. And to me, that was like, we did something. And then we would go a long time without anything else happening. So I would sort of be able to, like, put it in the back of my mind that it was normal and it was handled.
Yeah. Oh, I totally get that, Lee. I think the core of that is we in the positions that we were in, we had not come to the realization that we were completely powerless over this disease. So like we still were holding on to the hope, like, well, I can give Ryan some advice and it's gonna fix this problem, and then we're just gonna move on with life, right?
Absolutely.
And until we came to the conclusion, at least I did, that okay, there is nothing that I can do. There is no piece of advice I can give. There is nothing that I can say. All I can do is be here to wash the dishes and cook food or support. Just a support element. That's all we can do.
Right, because we wouldn't have called it addiction even then. Like, I think I would just kind of chalk it up to, like, just, you know, maybe he just drank a little too much, or
Yeah.
he could always justify, and always it was like you got the tip of the iceberg of what was actually going on.
Uh-huh.
So you would, you know, be like, well, I did this and my back was kind of hurting, so I just took a couple. And I'm like, well, how many did you take? Just a couple. I'm like, okay, well, that's a little weird, but okay.
Well, I
Justify it.
kept going to work.
Yeah.
I kept showing
That's what
up.
I was gonna
I kept
say.
showing up for things. I kept doing all the normal things.
You're
that
functioning.
you
Yeah,
do.
I mean, he did.
I was functioning until the end when people were like, dude, what is wrong
Well,
with
I mean,
you?
you were going to school. He was doing excellent in dental school. I mean, amazing with his patients. Great
So-
with your grades. So
When did the wheels fall off? And it was like, and it was time. You made the decision.
He pulls the pin and throws the.
Yeah,
grenade.
like we gotta go. All right, we it's about to be over if we don't do something here.
Right, yeah. So that came at work. So the guy I worked for confronted me on whether I was using drugs or not. And this was the second time. He had asked me that summer because he had noticed some things.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very observant person, and he had noticed that I had changed like my behaviors. And you know, I couldn't tell that, but they noticed it.
Wow.
He noticed it, and I think some of the other people in the office did. And the second time, this was probably
November 16th, 2015.
Yeah, 16.
Like,
So
It's a big moment.
He asked me
it was
again,
on a Tuesday.
and it was one of those moments where I finally said yes. And like I said earlier, like that was part of the burden was gone. The fear was real at the moment because I didn't know what was going to happen from there.
what did he say?
He said, "Look, I've noticed your behavior. Something's going on. Are you using drugs?"
And I've asked him like why you didn't lie that time.
That's a good question.
I was so sick and tired of like being sick and tired. Like they say in AA, that we say that a lot. We're sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like I felt like I had tried everything I could to stop using drugs and alcohol, and nothing worked. And so I was just sick of it.
It's like you
And
just
I
kind of
was like,
collapsed.
it was
and-
one of those. It's also a faith moment. Like telling somebody the truth. Like you got to have some faith to do that. Like that was a glimpse, just a small little piece of faith that was building for me at that moment. That something better is going to come about. You know. And man, that was a hard week. That was a hard week because I didn't go back to the office. I ended up trying to get. Fortunately, I had been going to this group trying to get sober with the lady I was telling you about earlier that works with the Georgia Dental Association, and so she gave me a recommendation on a treatment center to go to, and I ended up leaving to go to that treatment center that Friday.
When did you come to Lee?
So on
Right
Tuesday,
after I left work.
Okay.
So I was at home dressing our 3-year-old like a turkey for his Thanksgiving
It's so true.
pageant.
It's true.
And Ryan walks in, and I can tell on his face, like he walks in at like 4:30, so he's home early. And I'm like, you came home early to help me get him ready so we could all go to church together and go to his pageant. And I'm looking at his face, and I remember I was standing in the kitchen. I don't even know if he got past the door.
I did.
He came in the garage door, and he looks at me, and he said, I need to go to rehab. And I'm like putting a feathered hat on the 3-year-old. I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, he's just blank. He's like, I have to go to rehab. And I like send him off to play, and I'm like, what do you mean you need to go to rehab? And he's like, I'm going. I'm going to have to go to rehab. And I think my first question was, for how long? And he's like, 90 days. And I'm like, 30. I mean, I feel like this was our conversation.
It was very, very similar to that, I think.
I'm like, 30. You cannot be gone for 90 days. He's like, they said it's a 90-day program. And so this is, I mean, I know we don't have time for my story, but this is how I operate.
We do.
I compartmentalize. I mean, like my life, like I compartmentalize and move on.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, you're going to stay here with the baby, and I'm going to take him to church. I'm dressing him as a turkey, and I'm going to church, and we're going to talk about this later. So I was like, I'm going. Like I just shut down business as usual, went to church. Hi, how are you? Talked to everybody, did the Thanksgiving thing, and came home. And that night, I remember, you know, you'll say things like, I didn't sleep all night. Like I literally don't think we went to sleep that night. Like I just cried all night. And he told me I'm an addict and I have to go to treatment, and they say it's a 90-day minimum. And I, at that point, like I said, there were the things in the past, so it's like I felt like I'd been blindsided. There are, of course, things in my mind where I'm like, but also I do know there's something going on, but never in my life would I've ever thought it was as bad as it was. I never thought he'd have to go to inpatient treatment. I never thought it would be that long. So between Tuesday, we dropped him off in Atlanta at treatment that Friday morning. So I had like 72 hours to process. In those hours, I got up and went to work. The next morning, like a friend brought her child in. Like I have a picture of me like holding her child like for her first dental visit. Like nothing's happening. It's the next day. So I worked that week. A couple of amazing guys in the dental community took the day off, a couple days off work to basically babysit him because someone, I can't remember who talked to them, someone spoke with them and told them that he would probably try to get in.
And use again.
He'd try to use again and unintentionally or intentionally kill himself.
You would overdose because you're trying to get as much as you can in before you go to treatment because you know
But
the withdrawals
last
are
too long.
coming.
And they also had him on like suicide watch because of how, like, I mean, how bad it feels in that moment.
Yeah, I was very thankful for those guys.
They drove him around. They took him to go buy sheets and like things for rehab.
Yeah, to get ready for
Like they took
for
their
treatment.
time off work, and I'm just went to work, kind of just shutting down and like having a really hard time processing what was happening.
I bet.
So we took him and dropped him off on that Friday, and MAR, the treatment facility he's at, it's it's like no phone, no communication.
You could write a letter.
I have letters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have some letters. But yeah, so it was like that weekend I'm at home and he's gone. Like it was really within the span of 3 days that
It was a whirlwind.
I learned he was an addict. He'd lost his job and he was now in Atlanta in rehab for a minimum of 3 months. And the boys were 3 and 1, just turned 1.
And you were working full time.
And I was working. And they were babies.
Well, there's so much how you manage. Like, how did you manage that?
Well, the first thing I did was throw a coffee mug through our front window.
So there's some anger involved.
Rage.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Uh huh.
He had the same reaction.
I can relate to that. Yeah.
I was washing, and it was like it was plastic. It wasn't even like a metal. It was one of those like cheap plastic travel mugs. And he was still there. I was standing there just like doing dishes, washing dishes, and then I just turned, and it went through the kitchen, through the dining room, and out the front window and into the yard.
Yep.
Which is like, Chad had a few similar moments. And you're already like you guys had no idea what you were dealing with. Like y'all were in it, new too, but like
Absolutely, yeah.
man, the shame that you're already carrying, and then to see the people you love the most going through something that extreme because of what you did.
Oh man.
Dude. Like and you're newly sober. Did you stay sober those days when the guys were watching you? Or were you able to sneak?
I got some more.
Okay. I figured.
Yeah, his
I was
date's
like,
not until the day he got like dropped off.
Yeah.
Same.
His sobriety date.
And I want to ask Ryan, for listeners that are listening to this that are currently bound by addiction and they haven't been to recovery yet, but it's something that they're, considering or they want that freedom, right? Like, what does it feel like when you're getting dropped off? You've made this decision. You're there. You're about to breach the doors of this recovery center. Like, what is that experience like? Like, what can other people maybe expect so they're not so nervous about it? I don't know.
I don't know if this is going to help.
Well, I mean, it's
so
just be real, man.
Yeah, when Leigh dropped me off, man, the way I've described it to other people is that I was dripping in shame, like walking into that facility. And I was, pretty hopeless at that point. And the shame was overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can describe it feeling guilty and all that kind of stuff, but the shame was just, it was heavy. And you just feel like you've let everyone down, and you're just going to live this crappy life, maybe getting sober, but who cares if you get sober, because that's no fun. That's no fun anyways. And so it was...
How are you going to enjoy anything?
Oh, man, it's hard to think about that, honestly. That's a hard part. And, that have not been there with the birth and stuff, those are still hard areas for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whew. Yeah. Well, yeah, man, it's like shame. It seems like one of the core elements of this disease is the lies that it produces. It's like because all of the shame that you were experiencing as you're about to go into this place, like the truth is you were about to go in here and like recover and become whole and experience freedom for the first time in no telling how long.
Yeah.
But the disease is telling you all these lies, but you can't delineate between what's the lie and the truth.
No, you can't tell what's true and what's false.
Yeah, that's powerful.
You can't grasp not being sober and being fulfilled. Mm-hmm. You can't grasp that.
Yeah,
that's so true.
When you're using.
Wow.
Anytime you go to do anything, like if you're going to a family function, if you're going to the lake with friends, if you're going out to dinner, anything you have to use to like feel like you're enjoying it, but that's part of the lies too.
It's all a lie. Yeah.
Yeah, like, but you think if I'm going to show up for this and like be who I need to be, I need to use beforehand.
Well, the thing about using for me, so I'm more of an introvert. And so when I would use narcotics, I would feel energetic and outgoing. And so that's who I wanted to be, is energetic and outgoing. And so that's why that drug, like, fit me well. It was my drug of choice at the end because it did that for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I've always thought, and you guys have much better perspective on it than I do, but I've always thought there's some spiritual component to addiction, more so than diseases and other sicknesses, there's some sort of spiritual component, because not only part of the 12 steps is you have to submit basically to a higher power, right? So even the process has recognized the spiritual component. But for me, that core foundation of the lies that this disease produces, and the Bible tells us Satan is the father of lies. And it's like, man, it's just such a weird, I've never been able to quite put my finger on it, but there is would you agree with that? Is
Absolutely.
there a spiritual component to it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a huge component.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would like to hear, whoever wants to go first, I would like to hear Leigh from you about what that did it end up being 90 days?
It was 106.
106. Okay.
So
good on you.
For health professionals, you have to go a minimum of 90 days.
Okay. So I want to hear what that 106 days was like for you, Leigh, and what it was like for you, Ryan.
Well, that's like I always told him. It felt like he pulled the pin, threw a grenade, and left.
That's kind of what I did.
It's
You had to, though, to save your life.
I did.
Absolutely.
I did.
If you took time to think about it, or like,
Right.
You could have either threw that grenade or you could have laid down on top of it and let
Right.
it freaking kill you.
Right.
So
I was going to start lying again if that hadn't happened.
Right. It had to happen fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it landed in November. So we were going through Thanksgiving, Christmas holidays. We had an anniversary trip planned, my birthday. It was a lot of stuff. So, it's like we're kind of so far out of it. I can look back and see the good, but trying to think in the moment, it was dark. Like I would get home from work, it would be dark. It was just like a dark and cold time of year, and my mom would come over. I grew up here, so she would come over at night, help me bathe boys and get them in bed. I would have a few girlfriends that would come by occasionally, after I put the kids in bed, and they'd come by and we'd just sit and talk.
did they all know?
So the thing with Ryan that at the time was gut-wrenching and now has been the biggest gift is everybody knew. I mean, he was fired from his job immediately. Mm-hmm. Everyone in the dental community knew, which kind of, our church, people knew. So there was no, he wasn't taking a break or on vacation. He was gone.
How freeing for you, though, to get the support.
In hindsight, yes. In the moment, I was still trying to figure out how do we downplay this, and it was one of those I was like, there is no downplaying this. This is what it is.
That's one of those God doing for you what you can't do for yourself.
Absolutely.
Moments.
So, in a weird way though, that December was such a beautiful Christmas season in a weird way, because it really stripped away. We still try to maintain this even now. It stripped away everything, because just from my family history, I grew up with a single mom. My father was an alcoholic who left when we were 4. And then we never really interacted or saw him again. And he died when I was 14. So I never had a chance to get to know him. So I didn't know him or his stories, but from what I'm told, he was an alcoholic, and that was a big part of why they got divorced and he left. So just having that cycle happen again, that's why I started out just so angry. Mm-hmm. And I think I remember you saying Blake was the big supporter of standing up for you guys in your marriage.
Yeah.
I had.
That's the question I just wrote down. Did you ever think of divorce? We can get to that one.
Yeah.
Later,
so early on, and I was raised by a single mom. My family is fantastic. She would come over. She's so supportive, but we did have that history, and that's, part of her story. So her pretty much immediate response was, you're going to be okay. You're going to be fine. You're still young. I mean, it was very much there's no hope for Ryan.
Yeah.
He's an addict. You're still young. The kids are young. We'll sell this house. We'll get you we'll get you a house in our neighborhood. Kind of we're just going to kind of downsize everything. You're going to be okay.
Terrible advice. I got a lot of terrible advice too.
But that's her experience and her story, and it was like I want to protect you from what she went through, because that's like he never recovered, and so she's not seen. Mm-hmm. I mean, they tried for a long time, I think, before he left. So, I didn't have I think a lot of people expected us to get divorced and to leave town, so I didn't have a lot of support on sticking it out.
What a vulnerable place to be into already, and then people are telling you he's not going to get better. And
nobody was saying that directly, but I think it was just a protective of me kind of mode.
Makes sense.
If he's really a drug addict, that's why we try to tell these stories, is that so many people don't hear stories of, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people don't hear good stories about recovery.
Yeah.
And the hope it can be pretty minimal. I went and got an anchor tattoo while he was in treatment. That's another good thing to do when somebody's in treatment, is go down to Broad Street and get a tattoo.
What the heck?
So this is my hope anchors the soul. It's my Bible verse. I went and got my hope tattoo.
Why are you so cool? You ain't got a tattoo?
Yeah.
She did.
I did.
Oh my gosh.
So that's the key, is just, if your spouse is in recovery, just go get some tattoos.
It'll be all good.
But that Christmas season was really dialed down. It was just me and the boys, and so Christmas was just truly just about Christmas, because we're not getting invited at any parties, and people are kind of, people are supportive, but also you're kind of on your own.
Well, what do you say? What are they going to say?
Right.
Leigh, how's it going? But they don't want to open that
right.
can of worms,
Right.
I remember they called me from Ryan's Rehab Center sometime mid-December. Matt called, and he was like, "Hey, we need to bring Ryan up there. We need to come get his truck." And I was like, "No, you can't have his truck." And they're like, "Well, the thing is, the guys, they all stay in an apartment, and they commute over to the rehab center. And they're like, most of these guys don't have driver's licenses. Mm-hmm. So we got a driver. They need a driver. So we need to come get his truck." And I remember I put up all the Christmas decorations. I put up all the Christmas lights as a middle finger up to Ryan to be like, "Oh, you're coming to get your truck?" Well, I put up,
"Well, I don't need you.
I don't need you." There's a candle in the windows, the trees up, and I stripped that truck. I was like a psycho. I mean, pulling up all the floor mats, emptying every...
Well, rightfully so.
The anger held on, what I'm hearing.
Anger held on for a while. I ended up, of course, the week he was gone, I went and was in a counselor's chair. And I'd never been to therapy.
Good for you.
I remember sitting down and I was like, first off, I want to be real clear. I don't want to talk about me. I don't want to talk about my family of origin. We're here to talk about my husband and what's wrong with him.
Oh my gosh.
When she let me get by with that for 3 sessions, and then she's like, "We're going to need to talk about you and your issues, because not everybody gets ragey and throws things through windows." Mm-hmm. They get kind of concerned.
That's great.
Upset.
They get upset, but maybe they're more concerned, and you're out here pitching stuff through windows.
Yeah.
And literally sending him a stripped truck with nothing in it. So yeah, I had some stuff. It was good, because I had some stuff to work through on my own.
When did that anger begin to transition or subside?
So around the 30-day mark, he could call. He was able to make phone calls. Mm-hmm. He didn't have a cell phone, but he could call from the treatment facility.
It was 3 weeks, yeah.
3 weeks. So yeah, it was, it's the stages of grief. So I just started out just angry. I think part of it, I just didn't want to see that cycle of what my brother and I had been through, the thought of that somehow I felt like I'd done everything right. Mm-hmm. I worked really hard in school. I went to Georgia. I got into dental school. I did a residency. I was chief resident. I had this great job. I'm in this neighborhood that, I'd always wished I could be in. I drove a car that, didn't make loud, rambly, metal banging noises.
Not anymore.
Like the one I had in dental school. I was chasing this dream of what I thought the good life looked like. And it was very much fitting into this mold of now I'm a dentist, and now we don't live paycheck to paycheck, and we're going to be in this crowd and be invited to these parties. And I was very focused on building this very superficial, but like that was my dream, was
Yeah.
to build this Instagram beautiful life.
Yeah.
And he, not me, of course, that, you know, in my mind, somehow I had missed it and he had ruined it. And he had like,
Oh, I totally ruined it.
that's
That's an honest statement.
Totally ruined it.
You know what's interesting to me though is it sounds like a big part, or maybe even the root of the anger that you were experiencing was the fear of losing those
Absolutely.
things. And it's
Absolutely.
weird how when you think about that, fear a lot of times is what's causing the anger. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I thought
Oh,
that.
yeah.
was
I mean, I was terrified, like, how are we going to pay for things? Like,
Yeah.
because I was working 3 days a week, so then I picked up some extra days, so I could kind of support us. Because I mean, like I said, he lost a job. Rehab is not inexpensive, and so then it started to segue from being ragey and angry and fearful of where we were going to go to then I had to face like, okay, like where are we going to go? Like there was a decision that had to be made, and it was, do I think that my husband is just a horrible human being who doesn't care about me, who doesn't care about his boys? Like, is he as, because I mean, if we don't believe that it's a disease, like, is he just like, I've just happened to marry like the most hateful, selfish human on the planet?
Yeah.
Or is there something else going on?
Yep.
So I went down to MAR. They did like a 2-day retreat or 2-day like informational course for people who love an addict, I think the title of it. So I went down and I sat in the room, and they did basically like a continuing education type course where they had different people come in and talk about like the science behind addiction, why people do what they do. And you slowly start to see like other people in the room are telling, like you said, like they didn't care about themselves, the people they loved, their children, their parents, their siblings, sex, their own bodies. Like, if they don't care about these things, like something has a hold on them that is more than just a choice. Because I just, like I said, I drank in college some, we drank in dental school. And then when I finished school, it wasn't something I did. Like he would laugh, like I would drink half a glass of wine and leave it. He's like, I would see you put half a glass of wine in the sink. And I'm like,
I could never figure out how that would happen.
Yeah.
Like, how could you leave a half a glass of wine?
so I just didn't have that mindset. And so I didn't understand. Like in my mind, before I dealt with him, my mindset would have been, just stop. Like, why don't addicts just stop?
Yeah.
But then I had postpartum depression after my first one, and before that, I was the same with people with depression. Like just don't be depressed. Like, don't do that.
Get up and do something.
Get up and do something.
Go run.
Yeah.
Get up, go run.
Yeah.
Go get out in the sun.
Yeah.
And then I went through that period. I'm like, okay, I can see how people can get to a dark place to where, like, if I could have like flipped a switch and just not existed, like I truly had convinced myself that no one would care. So I was like, okay, I went through something kind of dark that I didn't understand, and they had to help me get out of it. So I was like, I at least owe it to him to try to understand. Because I do really like him. I do really like him. So I kind of had to make the switch in my head, like, what do I believe about addiction? Do I believe this is a disease? And so when I got on board with that he had a disease, and it wasn't just him being like a total jerk, I felt like I wasn't going to give up on him, and that it was going to be painful and messy, but we had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old that he adored and that adored him. And like, I owed it to them to stand by him and hold on to that hope. So that hope, like the hope is going to anchor my soul. Like, I work at a surgery center here in Rome, and there's a precious, one of our nurse anesthetists, Miss Beth. You know how you said you had an email that you kept? She sent me an email. It's still on my phone. It's like December of 2015. She sent me Isaiah 41:10. And I just remember, like, fear not, for I am with you. And that was what I would just hold on to, that hope, and just try to tell myself, because, I mean, I don't think it's like you're not supposed to fear, but just when you fear, like, know that he is with you.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a very controlling person. Like I said, I kind of, like, that's how I can compartmentalize. Like with my dad leaving, there was a really bad divorce when I was 16 with my mom and another stepfather that was kind of borderline abusive. I'd been through some things, and I was always able to just, like, keep that in a box and move forward.
Mm-hmm.
I was good at school, so I just kind of used that and just ran with it. That's why I did great in high school. I went to Georgia and then, like, dental school, and, like, I was always able to work my way out of it, control my way into getting what I wanted.
Mm-hmm. Me too, in a way.
Yeah, even with, like, big challenges, like, I would just, okay, you know, we're gonna have to do, this is what we're gonna do. And this was the first time where I was, like you said, I was just sitting there, like, that December, January, at home with the kids in the dark, trying to figure out how we're going to pay for this and what the next move is. And I remember thinking, like, I cannot fix this. Like, this is, I'd always considered myself a Christian. But, like, I didn't go to church when I was in school. You know, I wasn't seeking out church in dental school. You know, I went on mission trips just out of, like, kind of a serving mindset. But if people wanted me to give a testimony, I was like, I don't talk like that. Like, I listen to hip hop and I cuss a little bit, and I'm not comfortable. I don't have a testimony. I just want to be a good person and help you. So I was sort of faced with, like, is he an addict? Like, if he is an addict, like, what does that mean to you? You can't control this. So what's, like, are you going to, if you're a Christian, if you call yourself a Christian, like, are you going to give this up to God and trust that he has something for you in this, and that he can, you know, help Ryan get sober?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything we have kind of hinges on sobriety.
Yes.
That's kind of the big thing. But, so it was just like a mindset shift of, like, I finally was, like, my rock bottom, in that I couldn't fix it.
Yeah.
I couldn't outsmart it. I couldn't outwork it. Couldn't talk us out of it. Like, everybody knew my husband was in rehab, and, you know, I just had to kind of see where it took us. And he was the one that, I mean, he did the work. I mean, it was 106 days in rehab. I think they said, like, one of the only reasons he was able to come home at that point and not be in 3/4 was because he was coming home to, like, a sober house. So he was able to come home.
Yeah, she had gone up there, like she said, and they knew her, and they knew that she believed this was a disease, and like I said, like she said, that's one of the reasons I got to go home right after.
Yeah.
So yeah, he left in November and he came home in March.
How was that 106 days for you, Ryan?
Whew. It was it's some of the hardest time in my life, and probably one of the most fulfilling times in my life. It was a lot of hard work, and the work was, I felt like I just had to, like, rip myself open, like, pull back the sheets, you know, and just trust that these people are gonna help me with this thing. And being away from Leigh and the kids was terrible. Like, it was terrible.
That's a long time. That's a deployment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was close to the boys, and Leigh. Like, we were always together, even when I was using and stuff like that. And so it was, golly, I remember leaving Sim. He was 3 at the time, and my heart was just, it was hurting. I mean, just physical pain.
Yeah.
As well as emotional and psychological pain. Like, it was just brutal.
What was your detox like?
My detox wasn't that bad.
You had plenty of practice at the detox cycle, didn't you?
It was just one more of those cycles.
Yeah.
Can I just
Really.
say I've never met somebody who would quit and go through withdrawals and, like, keep working. Dude, no way I could have worked.
It was
no
miserable.
freaking way.
Yeah, it was miserable.
Like puking, crapping, sweating, cold sweats.
I never threw up. I hardly ever threw up.
Really?
Anytime. Yeah. But, yeah. Yeah, all the other stuff I did.
Check.
Yeah.
So that was the easy part then.
Yeah, yeah. Compared to
Feeling school.
feeling school. Going to feeling school.
Yeah.
And treatment.
Well, talk to me about that. What were some of the most beneficial parts of that treatment program? Like, what helped you the most?
I mean, so the first thing for me was like truly thinking this was a disease and that I'm not just a bad person, and that if you got help, you could, grow from there.
Yeah.
So, they did a great job of educating us on that and talking about it as a disease. And because if I didn't think that, I wouldn't be on this podcast. Like, I wouldn't be sober right now if I thought it was anything other than a disease.
Yeah.
Because then I'm just a bad person.
Yeah.
You
We
know.
like to say turd on podcasts.
Yeah. Then I would
Then
be a
he's
turd.
just a total turd.
Yeah. You can't get anywhere when you just think you're a turd.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you're just stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Right. And so that the first thing was, accepting that first step of AA, which is we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. So the first part of that is I can't control this thing. Like, it's got control over me.
Yeah.
And it does whatever it wants to do.
Wow.
Basically. And the second part is I can't manage it well enough to control it.
Mm-hmm.
And my life is spinning out of control because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Everything around me. And I saw some glimpses of what a life in sobriety would look like. So, right after the summer before I went to treatment, I was going down to some of the meetings that I go to now to try to get sober, but still without telling the whole truth and that sort of thing. But I saw one guy. So one guy, like they were talking about being honest and that sort of stuff, and I'm like, yeah, we're supposed to be honest. My parents taught me that we're supposed to be honest. But seeing someone else being honest is like, it's a moving experience. Really, is if they're being vulnerable and being honest. So this one guy he was telling us about talking to a DEA agent, and because he had gotten his DEA taken, and he was like, I don't think I told him about all the drugs that I did. And they were like, oh, okay. Well, you need to call them back, and you need to tell them the other drugs that you were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, okay, I'll do that. And he freaking did it.
Hang it, man.
Like, he called this agent back and did it so that he could be honest. Like, they'd already passed. Like, he was already going to get the thing that he had set up to get. But he was more concerned with that honesty.
Wow.
Like, within. And, man, getting emotional thinking about it. And it wasn't even my story. And it was one of those things that, like, gave me that courage. Like, in treatment, I think of it as, like, courage is contagious, man. You see some other people be courageous and do something like that, like, I got to feed off that, and I did, and I used that in the group therapy, and I loved group therapy, and I still do.
Okay.
And it's something that's worked for me, and I could relate to people, and it's just a way of it's just another way of connecting with people, kind of like we're here today doing this, There's just a certain connection you get with people when you come together, especially in this scenario where we're all just trying to stay sober, or most of us are.
Yeah.
Not all of us, but most of us are, And then I really got close with the lead counselor that I had. And I think he kind of latched on to me also because we both play golf, and we're big fans, so there's a connection there. But I think the biggest thing was that he realized that I was willing. to do the work, and to do whatever the heck it took to get sober, because that's what I had to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so he latched onto me, and he rode me pretty hard. Now he was one of those that he's like a, I love him to death, and I think he truly loves me, and he rode me hard because he knew I would do it, and he could see that I could turn the corner on this thing.
Wow.
What was you went in hopeless, thinking life is really not worth living sober. What at what point did you have the change of like what you're referring to? Like, I'm gonna do this.
That's a good question too. So, I guess it's a bunch of little steps. I think. I don't think there's just this one moment where I was like, "This is the way I'm going to do it," or "This is the way I'm going to go." I think it took a lot of little things. One, like that I was telling you about the guy being truthful, like for his own sake. And then another time, so when I got to treatment, I got there on Friday, and then Saturday, they had this big banquet, and it's a recovery banquet.
They do it every November.
Every November, and we've been after to go to it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the last thing I want to do is to go to some banquet.
Yeah, they're gonna load up all the guys that are in treatment. They're gonna take them to the banquet.
Oh God! And you're the kids in rehab.
We're the kids in rehab.
Oh, I hate
and
that.
And it's a fundraiser, it's like
a black tie gala.
I wanted to just crawl under the building.
Oh man!
And so you got to bring nice clothes and all this kind of stuff. And I was still going through the motions at that point. I was still smiling and doing those things that you're supposed to do in society to stay hidden, And so I get there, and what I realized was that these were all the people that had been through the rehab. Like, this is not like outside people.
Wow.
These are like alumni, and they're showing up to this thing.
Well, tell them
smiling.
how you thought it was going to be like in a dark
Oh, yeah.
closet in the basement of a church,
Right.
with bad coffee, like every AA meeting.
So it was at the
Yes.
it was at the Cobb Galleria, which if you've ever been to the Cobb Galleria, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's enormous. And I'm like, I've been there before for like some other thing.
Like they have a closet.
I'm like, this must be in a room in the basement or something. It's going to be a dark room. It's going to be sad.
Yeah.
bunch of
and-
sober people.
Right.
Bad coffee.
Bad coffee.
Definitely.
Terrible stories.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I had pictured.
Yeah.
And that's not even close to what it was. It was this huge event. Tons of alumni came, and it was a celebration. And it was just,
Wow.
it's trying to change my thought of like this, from this decrepit kind of gray life that I was going to live. And there was a little bitty like glimpse of hope, like a light way off that I could see because of this event that was like, people are happy. It seems like they are. I don't know if they're making it up or not. Like, I really didn't know at the time whether they
Yeah.
were full of it or not.
Yeah. And thank God the community of addicts that are in recovery, the amount of work they put in to help people
Yeah.
that haven't began that healing process yet. Thank God for that, man.
Well, even this, you said you've shared your story before, but like, I didn't think last year when I started sharing my story on the podcast, actually, and on some other podcasts, I was like, I'm doing such a good thing and this is so great. And then there's this whiplash of vulnerability and emotions.
Oh, yeah.
Of like, I thought about it. Oh my gosh. I thought about it when Leigh was talking about the boys and stuff. I just thought about you, and I'm like, I want to protect you. I know you probably have experienced already, but like what you guys are doing right now is part of that work.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
is.
because it's not fun. Like, y'all probably you might not feel great for the next few days.
Right. We call it a vulnerability hangover.
Yeah, it's legit. And it's a sacrifice that you're making for hope and for other
Yes.
people. And
Lord knows we
Well,
need it.
I needed that when I was going through too.
yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, those were the little dots that started lighting up the room for me,
Yep.
of hearing those stories. And it's like, God, these people look like they're happy. I just don't I don't know if it's real or not,
Yep.
but I gotta try it.
How did your
But I gotta try it.
how did your faith change while you were in treatment?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Why are you stealing my questions, Lee?
Sorry.
yeah. Is she allowed to ask questions?
I don't know. I just had to think when you guys were saying that someone is going to listen to this podcast, and it's going to be that little glimpse of light that you're talking about right now.
Well,
Somebody's going to. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, somebody's going to listen to this, and that's what it's going to be for them.
Yeah.
And one day, part of their story is going to be, I heard this podcast.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
That's how it works.
Continue with answering Lee's question that she stole from me.
Well, towards the end, it's you get to the bottom, and that bottom is not only like a physical, and emotional, but also a spiritual bottom that you get to that I got to before I went to treatment. And there was no spiritual connection with God. I never prayed. I never meditated. Now I did pray one time. I remember distinctly. I was still using, and I said, God, please take this from me. And what I didn't do was go tell somebody I needed help. I didn't do that part. So that was the part that I think when I reflect on that of, some people would think that God didn't act in that moment, and what he was doing was saying, I got a bigger picture for you.
I'll show you how.
It's not, we're not keeping this small for you. We're going to use this so that other people can have that hope that we were just talking about.
Yep.
And so that gives it meaning,
Yeah.
which we all want that,
Yeah.
We all want to have something in our lives that has meaning.
Man, I totally get that.
Yeah. So, get to treatment. My faith was growing because I was telling the truth, and I was trusting that God had led me here for a reason. I couldn't figure it out what it was at the moment, and a lot of times in those moments you don't know what you're doing or why you're doing it. But I knew that he was working through the people around me. I started to feel a little more at peace, not only through the knowledge of like knowing that this is a disease, but also like having this new purpose. Like I'm going to have something else to share with people after this.
You should share your story about when you had to pray in front of your roommate.
Oh man. Ooh. So I'm in treatment. This is one of the first few nights, and they had encouraged us to pray in the morning and pray in the evening. Very simple prayer. In the morning, God help me. That's it. In the evening, God, thank you. That's it. And they wanted you to do it on your knees. They suggested you do it on your knees. And I would do that in the morning because nobody was up, so that was easy. And at night, the first time I tried to do it, I was laying in bed, and I'm like, oh wait, I gotta pray. And I'm in the same room with another guy. Like, he's a younger guy, very nice guy, but he's in the same room. And I was like, I'll just pray right here. I don't have to get on my knees. And I'm like, no, this is the same thing I've been doing. Like, why am I having trouble getting up to pray, like, on my knees? And it was just this, I couldn't hardly move. I couldn't hardly get up and do it. And I was like, I am so afraid of what he thinks that I can't care for myself and my family. Like, something's wrong with that. And I ended up getting up and doing it. And it was one of those steps in the right direction. I got some issues, man. Like, this is more than just about not drinking and using narcotics. Like, there's more to this story than what's right here. And that was just a powerful experience because I was terrified of what he thought. You know?
I love that you're talking about the little steps instead of, a lot of people do glamorize recovery like it's this big overwhelming, like, you know, bam, like, and I just love that your experience was my experience. It's like, along with the detox and the emotional work that lasts for years and a lifetime,
Oh yeah.
your brain also has to heal. Like
Yes.
when you use, I kind of have an idea of what you used, and I used pretty much the same thing for about 7 years. And then I also used benzos. And man, my brain was effed up when I got sober.
Yeah. Benzos will.
Like my
Do it.
brain was a wreck.
Yeah.
And I know narcotics do too. Like
Oh, yeah.
you feel pain is more intense at right when you first get sober. Like
Yeah.
you don't feel as happy for a while.
Oh my gosh, no. I felt the first year of sobriety. I felt like emotions were so raw to me. It was like I didn't have skin on me to protect me. You know, it was just right in there into the meat of things. Like, they were just raw, and I fumbled with them, and I just didn't know what to do with them because I've been numbing for so long, like with alcohol to start, and then narcotics. Like,
What was it like when you called Lee for the first time?
it was an uncomfortable conversation.
I think I hit him with the, you need to tell me everything. I'm tired of finding things out like
Yeah, you did.
a little bit of time. Like, if you got something to say it all right now. I was in a real good
She
place.
was no playing.
I don't
Yeah,
ever
she
want
was
to be on Lee's bad
All
side.
business.
Stick to her good side.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
Ryan.
I was in a bad place. I've done a lot of therapies.
So that conversation didn't go too well.
Well, I told her.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was our 5th wedding
was-
anniversary too.
It was our 5th wedding.
It was on the day of
It
your
was
fifth.
on the day I think he called to tell me happy anniversary.
I did.
I'm like, happy anniversary. Lay it out there. If you got something that you need to tell me,
Yes,
I don't
I'm
know
pretty
yet.
sure she was like, "Here's what I want for my anniversary present: the truth."
Yeah.
I was like, what have you not told me? And there's always more. That's the thing. Like, even when he was gone, there's always more.
Man.
So the first one didn't go great.
So after, if there's anything big else in treatment that you want to share, like, is there anything you can think of that?
I got real close to some of my roommates in treatment, and again, they're a big part of why I'm sober today, is because I felt like I could be honest with them, and they didn't care. You know, they just wanted to see me get well, because they were there doing the same thing, you know, and having those guys to tell the truth to
Yeah.
was huge for me.
Mm.
And it just started that kind of cycle in my life where I could start telling the truth on things.
Well, I want to know, like, I want to know the recovery story. Like, we've gone a long time, but it's so good. Like when you got out, obviously we talked about the first year, the raw emotions, but like, how did you guys get from the day you got home from rehab to where you are now?
Yeah.
So when I picked him up, when I came to rehab, they did family week. So I came down for like 3 days of, I don't know, was everybody
Did
there?
y'all have family week?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
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 We had an intense
Oh, it's
family
brutal.
week.
Oh, it's brutal.
I think I threw a chair.
She made fun
So-
of me half the time.
It was fun.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
So he came home, and I remember our instructions were we had to, every night before bed, we had to do mad, sad, glad. So we had to sit down and be like, what made you mad today? What made you sad today? And we both had to do it. And that was like, so we would communicate, because that was part of it.
And it was helping me communicate more than her necessarily. Yeah.
And he was still going back down 2 or 3 days a week
Yeah.
for treatment during the day. So it was sort of a
It was a tapering off from treatment. So I was still driving down 3 days a week to the treatment facility, staying the whole day and then coming back home. And in the same time, and I still do this, every Wednesday I have a dental recovery meeting in Atlanta. This is sponsored through the Georgia Dental Association. It's an awesome group. This is where they do all the drug screens and all that kind of stuff. We do multiple drug screens a month. When you're on a consent order, which is an order from the Georgia Board of Dentistry saying you can practice, but you have to meet all these requirements.
Mm-hmm.
So they're protecting the public, is what they're doing.
Right.
And it's good.
it's like a
It's real good.
built-in.
Oh.
It's an amazing tool for him because it's built in. So I mean,
But it's also for her too, because I have other people watching me
Yeah.
yeah, he'll say
and helping me.
He's like, I got selected. I had to go do a drug test today. I'm like, well, did you pass? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay.
The treatment center I went to, I got really lucky with our insurance. It was called the Farley Center, and it was for professionals. And I learned all about HPIMP and
Oh, yeah.
like the monitoring programs and
Yeah.
like that's intense. But then the statistics they had on sobriety with monitoring programs was incredible. Even after the monitoring
Oh, yeah.
program stopped.
Yeah.
Like the success rate was so much higher. And
Right.
I'm like, okay.
I mean, it's
It's just that safety net
Yeah.
for you. For me now, it's just a safety net.
Yeah.
Because I still do them. I'm off my consent order, but I still do the drug screens and I still go to the meeting on Wednesday.
Dang.
Wow.
yeah. So I think he did that for about 2 months. Found a new job. New job was really great and accommodating because he was again, the term like rigorous honesty is what we try to practice, which can be very frustrating sometimes because it's
Yeah.
not always fun. But so he was really honest when he interviewed, and so he was hired in an office that was really great about working with him on if he got selected to drug test, they'd be like, hey, your 11 o'clock's running late. Why don't you run out and go do your drug test?
Well, they actually built in time during the day for it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's
He didn't
awesome.
he didn't have a DEA number, so the other doctors in the office would write, like if his patient needed a prescription, they would write it for him.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of went above and beyond to make sure.
How did you guys rebuild your marriage?
So, I did counseling. I think I heard you mention like the what are not the AA groups, but the
12
Al-Anon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I went to a few Al-Anon meetings and I just didn't connect. Like it just wasn't a good fit for me. I mean, I had to get like a babysitter and it was always like at night and it wasn't for me. So I was just fortunate enough I was able to get in with a counselor. So I did a lot of counseling while he was gone, which kind of helped me. I'm so pro therapy. Like I think she let me talk about Ryan for like a few sessions and then it was like things that had absolutely nothing to do with Ryan and like all about my family of origin and upbringing and why I would excuse things or how could I have not seen this and what was I like overlooking because what was I focused on, what was I holding on to.
We all have so many blind spots.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was excellent. And so when he came back, we did therapy together. We did couples counseling for probably a year.
Over a year.
We
Yeah.
still do
It was
it.
over a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we worked
It was
with her.
really good for us.
Amazing.
Yeah, she was great.
Yeah.
She's excellent. So she worked with us. And it wasn't contentious though, like when he came back. Like the forgiveness piece fell into place before he came back. For me, with him. Again, like with your faith, like I look really good on paper, but there are plenty of things like in my life. There were things that he didn't know. And so I'm like, if I expect forgiveness for the things I've done and people don't know about them, so I don't have to tell anyone about them, but then how can I hold on and refuse to forgive him for what he did to us? So I just kind of had that moment, like that analogy about you're drinking the poison hoping it kills somebody else. Like, it was killing me. Like, that rage and that anger was killing me. And so one of our first dinners back, I was like, I'm going to tell you about some things. I mean, we'd been married 5 years. I'm going to tell you about some things you don't know about me. Like I've prayed for forgiveness for these things. And if, I'm not perfect, so how can I, expect Christ to forgive me and not be willing to give that to you? So we had this conversation before he came home. So I was, I guess, willing, both of our words were willing. He was willing to do the work to get sober. I was willing to forgive him and try to make, the next steps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the back of the big book, AA Big Book, they talk about honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And those are the big three components that you need to truly get sober. And, in this case, honest with ourselves. And then the open-mindedness being, where can God take us from here? And then we were just willing to do it.
Put in the work.
Yeah.
Well, I relate so much to your perspective there, Lee, because I had recently become a Christian, within the year of, me learning about Brooke's recovery or her addiction, and then she went to treatment. And I tell people all the time, but for Christ, there's no way I could have forgiven her. But for Christ, he allowed me to, or taught me to forgive through the same process that you just described. So praise Jesus, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would have been screwed without my faith.
I mean, I would have just raged on and
yeah, same here.
And just there wouldn't be a story about us on the other end.
Nope.
The same. Yeah. One more thing.
Yeah.
One more thing. I want to know what tools you've used to feel good in recovery, to find that happy place that you were referring to.
Yeah, so several of them, and they're different. Some of them are spiritual, some of them are physical. We saw each other at CrossFit today. That's one of the tools that I use, is to take care of my body and to do something hard, because it's hard for me. I don't like cardio, so the cardio part I don't like.
It didn't show.
Huh?
It did not
It
show,
didn't show today,
this
yeah.
morning. No.
I would much rather go in and just lift weights and not worry about doing any cardio.
You know
that's
what
the hard part of.
You know
for
what
me.
the truth is? You should actually do the exact opposite of what you want to do.
Absolutely.
Most of the time. Me and Brooke have talked about this so many
This is so
times the
true.
last few weeks.
So when I was in treatment, that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
I did the exact opposite of what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
If I felt like I wanted to be quiet, I talked. If I felt like I needed to talk, I was quiet. It was bizarre. I really did the opposite.
Yep.
Today, I went to CrossFit this morning,
Yeah.
and I'm just coming back from, we've been busy for 2 weeks, and I was so beat, and then went back to my work, and there's a guys trip going on where I work, and they were running this mile-long driveway that's this 13 times. And they're like, Brooke, come run with us. And I'm like, no. I'm already sore. My lower back kind of hurts. I don't want to overdo it. And I stopped and I was like, oh no, you're doing it. And went out there and punished the crap out of myself because I didn't.
After that workout this morning.
Yes. Yeah. Because it was I was making the dumb excuses and
Right.
I don't want to feel I don't want to feel
Right.
For me, it's the dishes.
Oh gosh.
That's where I check myself. The
I do not want to do
because
those
I
dishes.
always want to run and work out. Of course, that's what I want to do.
Right.
I don't struggle with it that way, but for me, it's the dishes. Yeah.
I want you to want to do the dishes.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So, prayer is another one of those tools.
How do you utilize prayer now?
I still pray in the morning. I pray it in the evening, and then I don't have a set routine, but I pray during the day. And one of the best things that I do is pray for other people. Mm-hmm. Man, it gets me out of myself, and it actually, I feel more connected. I feel more human when I do that, because I can feel like robotic sometimes, and when I pray for somebody else, and I actually care about them, and I want to pray for them and see them do well. That's a good one for my soul right there. Going to meetings, I still go to AA meetings. I go to one a week. I go on Mondays here in Rome, and I do my Wednesday meeting. Those are some bigger tools, I guess.
So if anybody wants to join you, you'll be at AA on Monday night.
That's right.
I'll join.
Yep.
Yeah, I would love to check
3rd
out
Street.
that meeting.
6 o'clock, 3rd Street. Talking to Leigh, like learning how to talk to her has been a huge tool. Like if we go places and I'm feeling a little funny, like I got like I'm uncomfortable or something like that, I can talk to her and tell her about it, and it usually brings it down enough to where I don't feel like I need to do anything. I can just get through it. And having people to call. I know a lot of people in recovery at this point, and having somebody to call that's in recovery, especially if you're having like a craving or something, like if you're feeling it one day and you're like, man, a glass of wine or a pill or something would be good, and you call somebody, like it goes away like immediately, and it's just a freeing thing. And those are big tools. Having connections is what
we talked about.
I've heard so much of that throughout, your in the way that you're still plugged into the community aspect, if you want to, whatever you call it, that recovery community, of how important that is. And I don't know, it just keeps resonating with me.
Yeah, it's a big one for me.
And we talked about when he came back, I think in treatment, they talked about having different playmates, different playgrounds. So there is sort of a different look to our life now. I don't drink. Like, we just kind of both just adapted. It's just easier, I think, just for the two of us. And just naturally that will shift, like where you are, where you go, who you're with. It's not always an intentional shift, but it's a shift. But it's not the like you said, like the black and white, like sad gray scale life.
Yeah. Like, for the first year or two, we didn't go to many parties at all, like especially with alcohol.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to be around it.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I still don't like to be around it. Like, I just don't like it. And because I know what it does to me, man, it takes me over. And I know that can happen again if it's, the right circumstances, or I'm not working a good program or something like that. If I think I got it this time,
yeah,
that can happen. So we try to. Our life's pretty simple, but it's pretty awesome.
It's been so freeing from what I thought I wanted to be where we are now.
Yeah.
To be more simple. Just kind of that freedom just to be who you are and have people know who you are. Like, our friend circle is smaller, but we've got like some amazing people in our lives who like help us to have stronger faith, be better parents. It's been the most freeing thing.
I've heard a lot that made me think about Biscuit, like, you did a lot of work on yourself through this process because you were kind of forced into it.
Yeah.
And then I'm hearing that y'all's life is different than it would have been. And like, I don't know if we've ever had this conversation, but that's my perspective on our life too, is like, I'm grateful for the things that my addiction has brought into our marriage and into our life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if I would take it back.
Oh yeah, absolutely not.
I don't. Yeah.
I mean, for us, it's like changed how we parent our boys and how we talk with them, and like how we relate. I mean, we talked about. I mean, one of the reasons we were able to coast along was, we'll say, we were like amicable roommates. Like, we were both about checking the boxes, getting life done.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if our relationship was anywhere near as strong as it is now.
No,
I mean, it wasn't.
It certainly wasn't growing.
No.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have to go through rehab, but I don't know if I wouldn't take it back for where we are now. It wasn't fun.
Oh man,
But just like anything,
it was hard.
Anything worth doing, like.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I worry about with like younger kids that get into drugs and alcohol is that they haven't done something hard in their life.
Mm-hmm.
and they haven't seen the benefit of doing something hard.
And knowing they can.
Man.
Later, because I was older when I went to treatment, and so one of the hardest things that I did was go to Georgia Tech. Like Georgia Tech was extremely difficult. Like it humbled me big time, and going through that experience, like when I got to treatment, I was like, okay, this is going to be super hard. What else can I rely on that I've done that has been hard for me? And what was the benefit of doing that?
That's crazy that you say that, Lee. Ryan, sorry. It's crazy that you say that because, man, wow. It just hit me because, like, I've had this for the last few months. Like, one of my biggest gift in life is to create hard experiences for people that actually develop them and change them and teach them all these skills that we learn in the SEAL teams. Skills in terms of getting through hard things, breaking things down into digestible segments, leading, being led, being part of a team. This is not common knowledge to people. I didn't realize that until my most recent days. But I've had this, I don't know if you want to call it a calling or this kind of yearning to create a program specifically for youth. Because I've never worked with youth before. I don't like kids. But it's just hit me when you said that. What worries you most about kids that get into drugs or alcohol, they've never been through something hard. And I just feel like I have the gift to create that opportunity for them in a safe environment that's done very professionally and very systematically. And I think it could actually save people's lives if we created a program like that.
Absolutely.
At some point, and
Could be amazing. I mean, drugs or alcohol or just anything.
Yeah.
I mean, life is going to bring.
I want to buy there's a piece of land for sale down the road from us that would be perfect for that program. I want to buy it. It's $850,000. If any of you guys got some extra money laying around, listen to this. Let's buy it. Let's create an awesome program for youth. Just throwing that out there into the airwaves.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, that hit me square when you said that because it shows me the absolute need for that. And I'm going to tell you, youth are underserved because there's no money in it. There would be no money in that for me. That, you know what I'm saying? It's like you have to make a living. So, you're serving entrepreneurs, you're serving people that are leading and that they're wanting these skills because it's going to help them in their personal lives. These are all adults, right? They can pay for that, and I have to make a living. And so that's why I think youth has kind of fell below the radar, not only because I've never really been passionate about kids, but I'm starting to see, like, man, this needs to happen.
Yeah.
Because my gifting pairs with that, Yeah. I don't know. We'll flesh that out later. I wanted to add, I got one more question for Lee. If I harbor any resentment, this sounds crazy, but I want to know if you have either of you guys have any insight on this. If I harbor any resentment in terms of addiction, it's not toward my wife, it's toward doctors. I harbor a lot of resentment toward these medical professionals that are drug dealers.
Well,
they're drug dealers. And I'm not saying I'm right, okay? But that's where my resentment resides.
Tiny bit of backstory. I doctor shopped like hardcore. And they're the ones that were giving me the narcotics and the benzos. And that's what almost killed me.
Yeah.
So, like, that's where that comes from.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, he was the doctor in his situation.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just like
providing the.
I haven't got over that. I still resent that.
Well, that's deeper for you too. Doctors don't focus on nutrition, exercise, environment. Like, I think there's a lot there for you.
Do you think it would change anything if doctors were educated differently, or do you think addicts would just find what they needed?
Seems like they'd find their way.
I agree.
Okay.
We would find a way. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're resourceful.
Yeah.
And smart.
I know. That's why most addicts that go through recovery are some of this, in my opinion, they're some of the smartest people on earth. once they make it through recovery and come out the other side.
And the most
They're
creative.
Yeah, they're unstoppable because of those attributes. If they can be used to the good,
Right.
they're unbelievable. So that helped me, though, to think of, I mean, that's a mindset shift to think, well, should I really be resenting these stupid freaking doctors that just deal drugs? Like, well, it's actually the addict would probably just find another way. So I don't know why that was on my mind, but anyways, we've been going for over 2 hours now, and I really appreciate you guys having the courage to come and share your story. It's very, very meaningful and powerful and impactful to me personally. So I don't care if anybody else likes the conversation or not. I loved it. And I do believe there will be at least one person that this conversation will impact the trajectory of their life. I truly believe that.
I agree. And I love y'all's willingness. I mean, I know you were kind of forced into the public and but again, just your energy throughout this and your body language and the willingness to share the really hard parts, and your reaction to her sharing the really hard parts is man, if anything would tell me that you're in a good place in recovery, it would be that, I don't know. You guys are just awesome.
Wow.
Well, it started with you guys sharing y'all stuff too.
Exactly.
With us.
That's how this all came
And that's-
about. Was
and
we
that's
listened
just
to the
how it
origin
works.
series.
We're just an open book.
Well,
Yeah.
Wow.
and I want to leave. I just want to. You guys may not do social media. I don't know where you guys are at with that, but where can listeners connect with you guys? Or Ryan, if you have any advice for listeners that are living in active addiction, where they start, where you would recommend the start. Where do they go?
Yeah.
Anything you want to put out there, man.
Yeah, I got a call last night about somebody struggling and where they what needs to happen next. And I usually prefer to tell people to go to treatment, but a lot of times that just depends on where they are in their cycle and how bad it's gotten, kind of. Unfortunately, that's just the way it works.
Yeah.
But if you can get them to treatment, get them to a treatment facility, and then get them in AA, those would be the direct line for me.
Roger that. Where can people find you on Instagram, Leigh?
Well, Ryan just started his own dental practice last April. So
Nice.
Weldon Dental.
Congratulations.
Weldon Dental.
Weldon Dental is
Okay.
on the gram.
On the gram.
We on the gram. I should probably post some more.
Do you run the Instagram?
Yes. Yes. So Ryan is he's here in Rome. So Weldon Dental, if you know.
Awesome. Yeah,
check
you
us
guys
out.
reach out to Ryan and Leigh if you got anything out of the conversation. Give them a thank you because they took a large chunk of their day out here to come and share their story. So shoot them a thank you. Let them know what you got out of this episode. And if you know someone in your life that could benefit from this conversation, share the show with them. All right? It's super simple. Just you're listening to this right now, click the little thing that says copy link and text them the link to the show. Don't be lazy. Don't be a lazy turd.
Oh my gosh.
If it will help someone, share the show. That's the only reason we have these conversations is to help people. So please do that. Okay. I had to get that out.
Okay. I want to end with the Serenity Prayer. I'm wondering if everybody's ever heard it.
Love it.
Guarantee you there's some people on here who have never heard it.
Yeah.
But it's so good for not just recovery.
Yeah.
It's just a great prayer.
It is a great prayer.
Well, you can end with that, and I'll give you the honors of Nuff Said.
What?
Yeah, I'll give you the honors today.
No, I don't want it.
Okay, well, I'll take it then.
You can do it. Are you done being mad and crazy?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a Serenity Prayer. I don't know why in the world I'm reading it. I know it. I just feel like I'm going to forget, on the spot, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Man.
Nuff Said.